Good evening and welcome to the April 21st, 2021 regular business meeting of the Harrison Central School District Board of Education. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Michelle, would you do a roll call, please? Here.
Here. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to recess into executive session? We have a student matter and administrative matter to discuss. Motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Do I have a motion to reopen the April 21st, 2021 regular business meeting of the Harrison Central School District Board of Education?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Would you do a roll call, please, Michelle? Oh, here, sorry, I'm sorry. Is that thunder? That scared me, sorry, I apologize. I'm here.
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 Robert C. Sullivan Jr.
Here.
Wendy Wilbur. Please go to the fire exit behind me to my right.
Thank you very much. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We have two sets of minutes to accept. Those are the minutes from the April 7th, 2021 meeting and the April 20th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Second? Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. This is the opportunity for public participation. If you would like to address the school board, please approach the podium and state your name.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My glasses are getting fogged. But I can't see without them. I'm Lucy Udell. I'm the chair of the Harrison Educational Foundation. I'm here tonight with Sam Jaberga, HEF's chair from 2018 to 20, and Jen Lewis, our current vice chair. And it's our pleasure tonight to present on behalf of the Harrison Educational Foundation a check to the Harrison Central School District in the amount of $60,000 in support of the Individual Air Filtration Systems grant. This is the first grant of 2021 and the fourth grant HEF has supported since the start of the pandemic in March 2020. As it was for everyone, the past year was most challenging for HEF, forcing us to do things very differently.
Thanks, Lucy. Each of the four grants HEF has funded over the past 13 months have supported our students during this challenging school year. The funding for this grant, however, was different in that the funds were raised directly through a remote fundraising campaign, an online, email, and social media effort HEF launched in February of this year. Within roughly 6 weeks, we raised nearly $60,000, all of which is being donated to the district tonight to support the new air filtration systems, which of course have played an instrumental role in helping our kids get back in school safely and full time. We have our wonderful community to thank for this extraordinary response to our campaign. Our parents, local corporations, community members, and even those who no longer have children in the district all gave generously because they love our schools and our town. We at HEF cannot begin to express our gratitude we have for the incredible generosity of each and every donor.
In addition, HEF would like to thank each of you, our Board of Education trustees, our superintendent, our principals, teachers, administrative staff, custodians, everyone who has worked so tirelessly to make this school year the safest and best it could be during such a challenging time. We're grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public participation? Seeing none, thank you very much. First, I would like to thank the Harrison Education Foundation on behalf of the board, and particularly on behalf of all of the students in each of our buildings, the faculty, the staff, and the administrators who are benefiting from your generous donation and the air filtration systems that are making the experience they are able to have in the classroom so much better. So thank you very much, and please thank all of your donors on behalf of the district. We could not be more grateful, and to live in a community that supports its schools in this way is really remarkable, and we thank you very, very much. We have other good news to share with the community. I'm going to move quickly on to, I think last time I started with our various clubs, but I'm going to start with athletics. This week, the girls' swimming team, Sophia Bondakov, who is a member of the girls' swimming team, set the breaststroke record, which she broke last year. So she set a new record, setting the 200 individual medley. I'm sorry, the record was set back in 1991. And she broke that record last year and set a new record again this year. So right. Congratulations to Sophia. Congratulations also go to Tristan Ahn. He will be signing his letter of intent to run track and field at Bucknell University, and we will be celebrating his accomplishment this Friday. Our track and field program continues to just be stellar, just a remarkable program under the leadership of Coach Zanat. We had a number of winter track all-stars named by LOHUD. In the 55 meters, Peter Fisher made first team. In the 55 hurdles, Peter Fisher made first team, Tristan Ahn second team, and Neba Bergout second team as well. In the 1,000 meters, Katrina Torelli made second team. In the high jump, Tristan Ahn made first team, and in the long jump, David Ueda made first team. And as remarkable as all of those are, even more remarkable is that the Journal News LOHUD Boys Westchester Putnam Winter Track Athlete of the Year is our own Joey Cardascia. He set personal best indoor times in 4 different distances. The 55-meter dash at 6.76 seconds, the 200 meters at 22.53 seconds, the 300 at 34.91, and the 400 at 48.93. I'm tired just saying all of the things that he accomplished, so that's just remarkable.
Let's think about that for a minute. He ran around the track at Harrison High School in 48 seconds. As I said to you last time, that is a feat, unless you're a track aficionado, that you can't understand. That is historic. This is a phenomenal county for track and field, one of the hotbeds of the nation. And for this young man to be the athlete of the year is an extraordinary achievement. It's extraordinary.
That time in the 400 is the 5th fastest ever recorded by a Section 1 athlete, and the 4th fastest ever by a Westchester County high school athlete. So that is just really huge. Congratulations go to Joey.
He was also named an All-American.
Oh, that's right. He was also named an All-American. So the accolades keep coming. In addition, congratulations go to Joey Harrison, also a senior at Harrison High School. He's committed to play hockey at St. Thomas Aquinas. And I think we shared at the last meeting that he scored his, I believe, 100th point. He's the highest scorer in Rye-Town Harrison
History, yep.
Titans history. So congratulations to him. Let's see. In the Skills USA competition for animal science, Harrison High School senior Jade Sacamano placed first in the action skills category. Skills USA championships are career competition events which showcase the best career and technical education students in the nation. So congratulations to Jade. The Harrison High School Model Congress team continues to compete exceptionally well. They competed in the Penn Model Congress Conference this past weekend, And we want to congratulate Aiden Lefkowitz, Roya Azar, and Jack Kelly, who earned honorable mentions for Best Delegates, and Remy Rabin won an award for Best Delegate. The LMK Drama Club presented a virtual production of The Adventures of a Comic Book Artist this past weekend. Congratulations to them, and a huge thank you to the entire Fine and Performing Arts
Amazing.
community for supporting them in that effort.
And if you didn't see it, Mr. Test and Mrs. Nurenther did an amazing job of producing that piece. It is so professional. It's fantastic.
And finally, we want to congratulate, we mentioned last week, but did not have all of the details, that high school senior Arwen Fernandez O'Brien finished top in the top 15 projects at the New York State Science and Engineering Fair and qualified for the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. This is the first time in 3 years that we've had a student qualify for the international fair. Senior Tochi Anwasanya placed second, and Larissa Araj placed third in the competition among the top student scientists from high schools across New York State. In addition, we had a number of students who won best in category, or placed in their best in categories. Larissa Araj, Tochi Anwasanya, Julina Peruta, Maria Saez, Madison Shiro, Morgan Ramiza, Roya Azar, Lauren Davidson, Bailey Fisher, Hannah Karkut, Jillian Williams, David, and all won awards. And special awards were received by David Holmes, Bailey Fisher, Jillian Williams, Larissa Araj, Arwen Fernandez O'Brien, Taylor Burden, and Maddie Stagg. So congratulations to them. We heard from some of our science students a couple of meetings ago, and it continues to
phenomenal.
just be remarkable what it is they are accomplishing.
We have a very proud high school principal sitting here tonight hearing all this good news. She's glowing.
Absolutely. Finally, I want to just share with the rest of the board, I spent much of Tuesday afternoon on a Westchester Putnam School Board's call. They shared that they will be having their next advocacy meeting this Monday evening from 6:30 to 8. That will be by Zoom if anyone wants to participate. And the information to participate in that is in the most recent chalk beat that came from West Putt. I also want to remind the community that we will be having our PTA, our presentations of the budget, which we anticipate the board adopting this evening, but we will be presenting the budget as we typically do, or do every year at PTA meetings. The schedule of those meetings is up on the district website. But to just quickly tell people, we will be presenting at the Parsons School on April 29th, at Preston on May 3rd, at Purchase on May 6th, at Harrison Avenue School on May 10th, Harrison High School on May 12th, and at LMK on May 13th. All of those meetings will be at 7 p.m. in the evening. As we have done in the past, if parents are not able to make the one that's at their school, they are welcome to attend another meeting. But just a reminder, if you are planning to come, to please complete your Crisis Go process ahead of time so that we will have your information before you enter the building. Those meetings will be in person, so you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and understand the budget that we will be presenting to the community in May. And I think that's it. Dr. Wool?
My goodness, that's a little bit dizzying. I was visiting the high school this week. I got to visit with lots of kids, but I also visited with Mr. Herzig, our incredible social studies teacher and debate coach. And you mentioned last week how many kids we have in the top 10 in the nation on our debate team. Mr. Herzig has had the top debater in the country 6 times in the last 7 years. But one of our top debaters, who's gone on to do wonderful things, just received a Fulbright scholarship to continue his work in studying, I think abroad, but I'm going to find out. Remember Rafi Polero? So he is just been recognized as a Fulbright scholar. So lots of our debate kids go on and do amazing things, well past Mr. Herzig, but certainly he deserves a lot of credit for the amount of time, effort, and energy he puts into those teams. Actually, he was a topic of discussion over our dinner tonight, just how incredible he is. And I would like to add one other note about athletics, if I might. So we have this, maybe you've heard, there's a rivalry in football between Ryan and Harrison. Sometimes a couple people show up at the game. This year it was kind of odd because it was a socially distant game. But I just want to single out, you know, I was a coach for a very long time, and when I watch coaches, I look for things other than victories. And I just want to say that our football coach, who was a star here in his own right and is a phenomenal physical education teacher at the middle school, did such an extraordinary coaching job on the sidelines in a game that was a heartbreaking loss, but his ability to coach under pressure and to keep kids focused and to extract the best from everybody in the most pressured circumstances was truly impressive. I wrote to him as a superintendent talking to a teacher, because this young man is always teaching. Every single moment of the game he's teaching, and that's what we aspire to. It's also a credit to Mr. Galano, who's created the space for our coaches to grow and develop in that way. So athletics is about a lot of things, but it's mostly about building character. And I'm so proud of Jay Sirocco for the work he's done in building character amongst those young men. So just a terrific job. Heartbreaking loss, but lots of good things came out of it. So I want to give him credit. Ms. Buckham and I spent a lot of time this week with kids who continue to amaze and astound us at their sheer thoughtfulness and brilliance. We are working really hard to plan your graduations from elementary to middle to high school. Most of them will occur, all of them will occur at the high school in some form or another, and they will be in person. We're still trying to make sense of the incomprehensible guidelines we receive from New York State, which are more restrictive than they are for in-person learning. So we haven't figured that out because most of these events will happen outdoors. The kids are working really hard to plan a meaningful prom. We have a very large senior class, over 270 kids. That's going to be a challenge in and of itself. They had some pretty clever ideas, I will say, but that will be an on-site prom. Really make your own prom day at Harrison High School. So I just want to mention how proud I am of our high school students for continuing to persevere. And on that note, we also met with the students who are planning Relay for Life, which has been an ongoing event here for many years now, almost 8. And this was going to be the year where it was going to be all virtual again, and the kids have come up with a plan, we think, a viable, safe plan to have Relay for Life in person. You'll be hearing more about that soon. I also met this week with our administrative team. One of them was sitting right there and was in both meetings with me, and we're going to talk about her later tonight, Mrs. Egan. But we have a very comprehensive summer program planned. We're not ready to share it, but we're going to have the information available for parents for sign-up by the first week of May. And Mr. Greenfield and I will be presenting to you how we've come about that. But some of the things I want to just share is that over the course of the pandemic, we have developed a very comprehensive data dashboard on every child in the district. And we are able now to look at multiple variables to determine what you need the most support in or where you're doing your very best. And we're using that data dashboard to custom design summer programs to meet the needs of our specific kids, not a generic program. So I was really impressed with the presentation of both the elementary team and the secondary team. We're going to focus on 3 big areas, as I've talked about before: learning loss, enrichment, which means learning something you love and enjoy, and also some culminating events that help to build back school-based community before we reopen schools. So the work that the entire team has done has been really impressive, and we're going to be excited to share it with you very, very soon. You mentioned, but it's worth repeating, that Bob and I will be doing our last tour together. Mr. Salerno is approaching his retirement, and he's been with us for 18 years of a storied career, and we'll be presenting in person for the most part. We've had one request from the Parsons School to have their presentation virtually. We are, as Mrs. Mangan said, inviting those people who would prefer in person to join us at another meeting, or if you want to hear it twice, you're always welcome to join us. Presentations last about an hour and a half. Lots of really good questions. The process is a little bit slower than it will be tonight, where we can dig in and give you a chance to really ask specific questions. Some are directed at Bob, some are directed at me. I tend to focus more on the instructional program, but Bob can tell you the ins and outs of all of the finance-related issues. I also want to share tonight, before we get into the presentation, that obviously our nation has been going through the throes of a very difficult time with a recent trial and verdict of guilty in the George Floyd murder case. And it's been very hard on our children to figure out how to navigate those waters. And our teachers have done a good job of being sensitive and developmentally appropriate. We encourage kids to ask questions. We also encourage kids who need support to get it, and we provide it. But I wanted to remind people that, when I came here in 1999, one of the things that I thought we were lacking was a coherent approach to the way kids are educated. That we needed a deep and common understanding of what it means to be educated, what it means to be productive as a human being, as a learner. And at that point, I recommended a program that was relatively unknown. It was called the International Baccalaureate Program. There were about 35 schools back in 1999, and now it's all across the world. And part of the budget proposal tonight, the thing that I'm most excited about, is we're going to finish the work that Mrs. Egan has had a big part of navigating recently. We, in June, officially become an IB middle years program. So all of our students through 6th grade through 12th have the opportunity to participate in the IB. It's open to everyone. And in this budget cycle, we are proposing the primary years program. But let me tell you why I think that's important. Let me read you one or two sentences about the IB philosophy. It demands that you develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. And that's a mission that's never been more timely or more important than it is at this moment in time. And that doesn't mean that you focus on intercultural understanding during a month or during an event. It means that every day we help engage kids in becoming more effective at understanding and respecting difference, seeing difference, understanding different perspectives, and growing as human beings while they're growing academically. We're extraordinarily proud of our IB diploma program. It's one of the most effective in the nation, and it is an open door policy. All children are invited to participate and supported in participating. Our IB middle years program, as we shared with the board, when they did their visit, they said to Mrs. Egan, who chaired the committee and the visit, that we should be a model for what it looks like to have appropriate and thoughtful implementation of a program of this comprehensive nature. So I'm excited about that. As much as the world sometimes wears us down, I think the magic of our school district is we see every child and we understand that the world becomes a better place when we empower kids to be their best. That's our work. We do it every day, and it's an important part of this budget presentation. So before Bob presents, can we do the appointment and let
sure.
Kim and Jen Egan go home?
Absolutely. And before we close my update and Dr. Wool's first part, I forgot to remind the community that the parent tours virtual. Oh, my microphone's not on. Sorry. Is that why Andy's waving at me?
I saw the videos.
Sorry, I forgot to remind the community that the parent tours, community tours, they're virtual this year. Tours of LMK and Harrison High School will be taking place on April 28th. The LMK tour will be at 6 o'clock. The high school tour will be at 7:15. They will be in a webinar format. We will, as always, have students who participate, and there is information on the district website for how to register for those events, and then you'll be sent the link so that you can participate in the
And you've
webinar.
participated in every tour. The highlight of the tour
Are the kids.
will be in person live. You won't be there, but the kids will be there, and they will answer your questions in real time, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you don't leave excited, come talk to me. But I am very concerned about the high school principal and the soon-to-be director of world languages
So
in ENO.
before we do the budget presentation, I am going to move on to the personnel agenda. We are going to take item 1, certificated personnel, A, regular appointments, item 1, out of order. I'll take that on consent unless anyone objects. Do I have a motion to approve item 1, certificated personnel, A, regular appointment, SED clearance received, item number 1? Do I have a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yes. So almost every single board member is well aware of Jen Egan. She's been an extraordinary foreign language teacher at our high school. She was the coordinator of the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, and she served as the middle school principal this past year. Assistant principal, yes. Scott'll be mad. This past year, and did a phenomenal job, and I'm getting a lot of grief from the middle school faculty about moving Jen into a new role. But you should also know she's a homegrown leader, as many of our leaders are. Jen was a star student in the Future School Leaders Academy. She spent a lot of time learning the ropes here and did internships here and has been just a remarkable leader. And it was just an overwhelming process. Dr. Laidwood was sharing with me that Jen, as she always does, shined with her intellect and her energy, and the committee was so excited to see you in this role, as am I. So without further ado, if the board would agree to call the roll, I
All in
think.
favor? Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jennifer Egan.
Forgot to turn it.
And Mrs. Kozak's not talking to me, I just want to be clear.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for being here tonight, Jen.
Yes, and
if, Jen and Kim.
Yep.
And we will not be offended if you don't want to stay for the rest.
Actually, I would be directing you both to go home, because I would need you to rest, and thanks for being here, great job.
Super.
Thank you for doing that out of order.
Yeah. All right, with that, we will return to the superintendent's, the annual budget adoption. We will have a budget presentation from Bob and Margaret, and Mrs. Wolverton, who is the board liaison to the assistant superintendent for business, could unfortunately not be here with us tonight, but she asked Mrs. Kozak to just bring the community up to date on the process. So Kelly, if you wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay. So, tonight the board will adopt the budget for the 2021-2022 school year. So, but before the presentation and adoption, I want to take a moment to talk about the process of developing our budget and how we got to where we are tonight. So at the start of this process, the board charges the superintendent with goals for the upcoming budget: to protect instructional program, maintain class size, and consider the impact of the taxpayers of our community. So since the tax levy cap was introduced back in 2011, we have stayed within that cap. We have never asked our community to support an override, and this year is no different. Our budget stays within the tax levy cap. So the budget process begins in October with numerous meetings between Bob and Lou and our administrators. So they basically start over each year and evaluate the needs of each school and department. So in addition to the numerous meetings with our administrators, the Board of Ed Budget Committee and the board as a whole, the superintendent and assistant superintendent for business also meet with the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. So we had 3 meetings earlier in the year And these meetings provide members of the community an opportunity to offer direct feedback and ask questions throughout the budget process. So many factors impact the budget, and not only are they out of our control, we don't receive confirmation of those numbers until April, specifically CPI, the TRS rate, and state aid. So this makes the budget development challenging, especially this year because the state did not adopt their budget on time. So, however, this year's budget accomplishes the goals set forth by the board, and in particular to maintain class size, continue offering robust and relevant professional development for our teachers, and providing additional staffing to meet enrollment growth and more support. So we have achieved these objectives while continually balancing our commitment to our students with our commitment to our taxpayers and staying within the tax levy cap once again. So this administration does not make decisions without research and planning. So we do things intentionally with the bigger picture and long-term planning in mind. This commitment by our superintendent, assistant superintendent for business, and the entire administrative team is what has earned us a AAA rating from S&P. And this is the best evidence of good management and financial stability. The budget that is about to be presented to the board is the result of months of hard work, collaboration, and thoughtful planning. This is always the case each year when we develop our spending plan, but this year, as you can all imagine, has been particularly daunting because this work has been done while managing a global pandemic. So on behalf of the board, I would like to thank Lou and Bob for their leadership and unwavering commitment to our students and community. And this is a budget that continues to put providing opportunities for all students first. So with that, Bob.
Thank you, Mrs. Kozak. Before Bob starts, let me, first of all, thank you for those kind words. And while Bob and I take a lot of credit, we would tell you that Brian, Michael, Margaret, the principals, our directors, spend hours and hours and hours in meetings, and as you said, reviewing. I almost feel like we start again over and over again. I'll hit the button for you, Bob. Wake up. You'll wake up? It'll wake up. Thanks. So in addition to having all these people work on the budget, many of the variables this year were moving in real time. We didn't know the final outcome of state aid till almost a week ago. We were told that there was going to be a major cut, and then the cut didn't come, which was good news, but it was also difficult to plan because we had planned for that cut. In addition, we have money that we think is going to be available to us through various federal grants, but no guidelines in how to access that money or how to spend it. And so we are always in this state of constant motion, and it makes it a challenge to plan long term. And Kelly, thank you for so much for reiterating all the things that this budget accomplishes. The one other thing which I mentioned, which has got me really excited, is the primary years program is also in its beginning phase this year, and we think it'll take a 3-year implementation, and when it's done, we will be an IB program K-12. But Bob and I were just reflecting this afternoon when we were reviewing this presentation, because this is a financial presentation, it's not an academic presentation. All this board has accomplished in the last several years. You know, we are one of the districts that pays for all of the tests, so no child is ever denied an opportunity to take an IB program or an AP program because the fees for those exams are paid for by the district. And what we have seen is our participation has grown. And we consistently try to eliminate barriers from participation, both structurally and financially. And all of those things have become baseline expectations in our community. I mentioned our summer program. Our summer program is funded in this budget, and it will grow in this budget using the CARES Act and other federal funds to serve more kids as the needs for students have grown this past year as a result of the pandemic. So we're very proud of what we've managed to accomplish, and we're hopeful that when you see the outcome, you'll be as pleased as we are. Mr. Salerno, you're on.
Thank you, Dr. Wolf. Tonight's meeting, the presentation is probably somewhat monotonous for everybody because they've seen most of it before. I tried to truncate the presentation in the hopes of not being redundant. But so many things were said tonight that are really relevant. And we will go through the entire revenue and expenditure side of the budget at what we call the required annual budget hearing. And that happens about a week before the actual vote. But what's important to note is that, you know, when we were close to the conclusion of the 2021 budget process was when COVID became very prominent. And the uncertainty of what that was going to do, it resulted in a delay in our budget until June 9th, something that was unprecedented. But in addition to that, there were so many uncertainties that we built this budget on for the current year. As Lou said, you know, they were going to deduct 20% of our state aid, beginning possibly in 1920, before the year was closed, and continue it through 2021. We began the 21-22 budget process fully not knowing if we were going to have that 20% or if there was going to be more to happen in the 21-22 year. So many of the things that the governor proposed in his executive budget back in January painted a very different picture than where we landed right now. So the good news is what we know now that we learned pretty late. I think it was around April 6th or April 9th
Yes.
when they concluded their budget, where we found out that not only were we not going to lose the 20% of state aid that's been held over our head the past year, some of the other objectives and suggestions of the governor were not carried through, and I'll go through those in the presentation and what they mean for us. So this is where the budget actually landed. So in the first column, you have the executive budget proposal for 21-22. That was the governor's budget. That's what we received back in January 19th. And the numbers don't look, this is kind of cleaned up a little bit. I deducted a lot, I reduced a lot of the lines in it because they were also proposing to introduce STAR as a component of state aid and not as a property tax revenue. And that is several $1 million. In addition to that, they were deducting the Corona, the CRRSA aid of $1,375,000, which is the federal money that the government was given to the school districts. That was all reversed in the state adopted budget, where the $1,375,000 has been pledged to us, and I'll go through the whole federal aid stream as well a little bit later in the presentation. But the good news is they kind of squashed the whole idea of collapsing a lot of our expense-driven aids. While the end result did not mean a lot monetarily for us, but it does mean a lot to the district and districts in the long run. Because those expense-driven aids, if they come under anything other than expense-driven control, districts will come out short in the long run. Especially when the whole expense-driven aid process was kind of crafted around the tax levy cap. They wanted districts to use shared services, BOCES, and to, a decade later, take that away just really wouldn't be very prudent. So as you can see, the next column is the enacted budget for 21-22. Again, it's only $27,000, $24,000 higher than the executive budget, but the detailed components make a much bigger difference for the school district. So we revised all of our revenue. We were able to take out the uncertainties of aid being deducted from us in a tune of 20%. By the way, that would have been between $700,000 and $900,000. So it was a significant amount of money that we would have lost. These are some of the federal aids that came out as part of the actual conclusion of the budget process. We have the CRRSA, which is the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Aid, $1,375,000. That's all new for us. As in the executive budget, the next line was a minus $1,375,000, where the state was taking that back. In addition to that, we have the actual American Rescue Plan, which is another $3,050,000. These are aids that are to use and supplement our programs. They are not meant to build into our general fund to bring taxes down, to bring the levy down. You're not supposed to supplant expenses that we use for operating our instructional program. This is to help bring students, reduce the learning loss that they might have been, fallen victim to, and also to enrich our summer programs as well. While we don't have all the specifics of how these monies can be used, we know those are some of the core requirements for it. The time that these have to be used, there's actually another grant that Mr. Greenfield and Mrs. Medunio applied for, and that's the CARES Act. We got an additional $470,000. We were approved for that. We're using those funds to take us through most of what we spent this year. The PPE equipment that we bought. You saw tonight the generous efforts of the Harrison Education Foundation with $60,000. That essentially takes care of 2 grade levels, K and first grade, for those machines that we bought. So that really goes a long way in helping us through this process. So back to the federal money. The CRRSA monies have to be used by June of 2023. The ARP money has to be used by June of 24. And the CARES money is, I believe, by the end of June of 2022. The CARES money is no problem. We pretty much have that spent. So, as more information becomes available and as the process unfolds on how to apply for these aids, we will share that information with the board.
Hey, Bob, just to take a pause there, because it's such an important point you just made. When people see these numbers, they should realize that this is an allocation that's going to be expended over 3 years and for specific purposes. We don't know yet which categories. Some of us have seen, but we haven't verified, that 20% of this money should be directed toward learning loss, which affects the size of the summer programs. Dr. Liedwig and I were meeting today about how big a program can we afford over the next 3 years. So much of this, again, is still being uncovered. We looked today, again, at new guidance that didn't help us much.
Thank you. So, I'm sorry about that. So some of the staffing, we've gone through many meetings, mostly Dr. Liedwig and Dr. Wolf, with the high school and the middle school faculty, trying to hone down student loads, faculty loads, and seeing what we actually need for staffing for the coming year. The elementary schools always present a significant challenge because we have the uncertainty of who's going to be coming in kindergarten, and the question of, did people hold their children out as a result of the coronavirus, and we're going to get a surge of kindergartners. These are all uncertainties. So as part of this budget, while the elementary positions were shown as 1.2, Dr. Liedwig had come up that we needed potentially 2 elementary positions because 2 grade levels could have been right on the fence. A couple of kids either way, you have to add a section. So we are adding 1 full position, and there's another full position that became available in the budget as part of the shifting of some of the classwork and some of the special ed needs that will be taking place this year. So we're going to be able to have the 2 positions, if we need them, at the elementary level. Teaching aides, we're actually adding 4 positions. 2 of them we already built into the budget. Another position is becoming available. That's for a child who no longer needs a one-to-one aide. So we, in the end, have to only add one additional aide position to the budget. So in total, we're adding 2.2 additional positions, but there are additional positions that are going to be moved
up.
around in the district to fill gaps if needed. So this is, I just put this in there because I wanted to give a little quick framing for where we came from back in March. This is the end part of the tax levy cap. And without going through all the gory details of where the revenue was at that time and the expenses were at that time at $126 million, we were coming up $3.2 million short of what the tax levy calculation would permit us to levy. So everybody scrambles, we all went back into, and this is not a challenge that we haven't had in past years. We faced bigger challenges than this. Past couple of years we haven't had it, so it was new to us in the recent years. But we went back, we dug deep back through the budget, and we pretty much turned over every rock that we could. So going through the budget, we actually determined that we are reorganizing some of the staffing at the central office level and consolidating some of the clerical staff, and through that, we can save one position in the central office clerical staff. Now, nobody's losing their job, fortunately. This is a position where it was vacant, someone retired, and through the moving of some administrators and clerical people, the clerical staff could support more administrators. So we're recognizing one savings there. This year, if you recall, they put in place the child care program for for children of faculty. We did this because under Corona, there was legislation of federal law passed where folks could take more leave time to tend to their own children and get compensated for that. That would have resulted not only in additional expenses for the school district, the more important impact would have been we would have lost our teachers. We would have had probably 30 to 40 teachers out, and we would have had substitute teachers in. Not that there's anything wrong with substitute teachers, but we want our permanent faculty in place in front of our children. So Dr. Ladevig hired, put in place the internship scenario where we have 8 people, 2 for each grade, 2 for each class, just to cover them in the event that somebody was out. And we had 4 locations. And teachers in the district were elated because they felt comfortable. Their children were here. If their children needed to have remote learning, they would bring their own devices in, and they would conduct their schoolwork with the assistance of the interns. And teachers were close to their own children, and we had our teachers in front of our own classes. So the need for that will most likely not be here again next year. So we removed $210,000 from what we were originally budgeting for 21-22. Health insurance, I'm trimming it down $100,000. As I've always said, sounds like a lot of money, but it's a $14.5 million line. Our experience is showing that we come out slightly ahead because we never, when we project our budget, we never know exactly the new people that are being hired, what level of insurance they're taking. Generally, we use 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3's individual, 1/3's 2-family, 1/3 is family. We also have a 4th spur where employees can waive their insurance. So trying to figure that balance out, if a few people go a different direction, it's a significant amount of money. So we feel comfortable with reducing the budget by $100,000. And keeping in mind, all these reductions, none of them impact instruction. We're purchasing a new server. The director of technology put it in the budget for next year. This I consider to be a one-time purchase. So by pulling it out of next year's budget and buy it on this side, I can reduce the budget because it's not an expenditure that'll recur in 22, 23. So it's not like we have to take it out and then climb the hill again in the subsequent year. So we're pulling it out, and we'll save $35,000 in next year's budget and buy in this year. BOCES Career Center, we had initially more students in the budget for 21-22. We're looking at landing at 35 students. We had, I think, 39 or 41 in the budget. So that'll save us $113,000 out of the budget from what we proposed. I'm not going to talk about the small one. And we also had an early retirement incentive for the teachers. 9 teachers participated, and we saved $559,000. So we consider that to be a success. The next line down, the $180,000, as you can see there, that's the additional staffing that we went through on the earlier page. So in total, we brought our proposed budget down from $126,328,000 down to $125,558,000. So we're at a 1.73% budget-to-budget increase from last year. Another thing we're doing is we try to get creative, and you can only do this in certain situations. In the budget for next year, we had budgeted $130,000 for the HEPA filters for these new air machines that we bought that eliminate COVID. They have expensive filters. The filters last 18 months to 2 years. Since they were just commissioned in March and April, we would probably be ordering them at the end of next year to get them in place for 22, 23. But since we're not going to need them for next year, I'm pulling them out of the budget for next year. I'm going to encumber them, issue a purchase order in the current year to earmark the money and carry it forward. But by doing that, I'm taking that and $100,000 out for PPE equipment, and we're dropping it below the line into the capital line. So we're keeping our budget exactly the same, but as you would probably remember, when you bring information, the numbers down to the capital line, it becomes an exclusion and a tax rate, the tax levy cap. So rather than cutting the budget by $230,000, we're keeping the budget the same. We're building the capital line, $230,000, and we're eliminating the need to cut the budget by $230,000. So it really is a win-win for taxpayer and school district alike. Margaret and I went through, and we are writing off. We have old payable, accounts payable. This is an accounting treatment. We have payables going back to 2013. We set these up when we closed the books back then for services districts had never billed us for, but you close the year because in case they decide to bill us or they realize they didn't, you don't want those expenses coming out of a different or eroding a future year. We are now 7 or 8 years after that. I think the statute of limitations has run. We're going to eliminate that and bring that back into revenue. So that'll be an additional $220,000 on our revenue side of the budget. So to fast forward, I know this is titillating for all of you, and you don't want it to end, but we'll try to get through it quickly. So if you look at the 3 columns here, the column in the middle is where we were back in March. And as you can see, we were at 112, the limit was 112,815,000. By making the changes that I talked about with the COVID and PPE expenses, we were able to increase the tax cap portion from 551 to 876, and that resulted in increasing our levy limit from 112,815 to 113,090. What does that mean? Okay, well that means, if you look at the next slide, we were able to reduce our shortfall from 3.2 million down to $2,450,000. Last year, we appropriated $2.6 million between our fund balance and our reserves. What does that mean? That means the board voted to give the taxpayer a credit of $2.6 million of our prior year's budget and carry that forward as a credit to keep the levy and the expenses down. Fortunately, we are ahead of plan as we normally come in due to good management and other conditions, vacant positions. We not only came in ahead of plan, but we will not use the $2.6 million that we appropriated last year. So that being said, we're bringing our appropriated fund balance and reserve usage for 21-22 down to $2,450,000, reducing it $150,000 from last year, and not using the $2.6 million that we thought we were going to use this year. So we came out in a much better place. Something that we will look forward to doing is working on honing that down. But, you know, I participated in a survey where all school business officials and school boards are sharing their information. Many districts are using this approach this year, going heavier into their appropriate fund balance. The good news is we have a very healthy fund balance. We have the reserves in place for this purpose, so we're using them as they're needed. I also want to say that our tax levy increase, the next page,
Good number. A lot of hard work on that number.
okay. Our proposed tax levy change is 1.89% for next year. The 10-year average is 2.16. So we're beating our 10-year average. The budget increase is 1.73. Our 10-year average is 2% even. So we're beating that as well. Margaret's been on the phone with the assessor, and we pretty much have that nailed down. While we did lose about $600,000 or $700,000 in our assessments this year, that's a low number by comparison of prior years. We can say that our tax rate increase will be in line with these numbers here. They'll most likely be in the low twos. So we're happy that the three numbers altogether are lining up as they should. The next steps, we're going to follow up on the guidance for the state, mostly the federal aid that I shared with you. Will be ongoing. Brian looks at the enrollment probably weekly between now and July, just to make sure we're where we need to be, and if we need to make a hire, they will make that decision. Ongoing projections for the 2021 year, we will do that right up until we close the books in June. What we do by doing that is we see what funds are available to carry forward. The appropriated fund balance that I shared with you, the $2,450,000, it comes from this actual function of projecting where we are for the current year. And then in the next several days, because we're actually adopting the budget late this year, we'll be shooting to have all our legally required documents out by next Wednesday or Thursday. Any questions on the budget?
Does anyone, I just want to clarify, we are adopting the budget late in terms of when we typically do. We are adopting it totally in compliance with all of the state all of the rules that we are required to on time. We actually extended the board's adoption of the budget by one meeting because we anticipated that there was going to be some difficulty in the state legislature adopting their budget on time, and we also weren't clear on what was going to happen with the federal funding and what that would look like, but it's been made clear, and Bob, I think, made this clear for everyone, that federal funding has really nothing to do with this, our operating budget.
But actually, that's a very good point. I mean, if you recall, they adopted that budget from the day of our last board meeting.
Right.
So we were scrambling, going through, evaluating, updating the PowerPoint. So we had to delay the budget vote.
Exactly.
And we use that time to our greatest advantage. I mean, as you mentioned, we are within the permissible limit. The state was late, and as Bob mentioned, all the variables were still developing while we were supposed to adopt a budget. So you giving us the additional time and taking us later into the budget season was extremely valuable to the taxpayer of this community, because we were able to really refine the work that we would not have been able to do without that information.
And if I may, Lou, as you shared with all the folks that get involved in helping getting this budget to where it is, I just want to offer my sincere thanks to Margaret Meduno. I'm not going to say she was my assistant. I think I was her assistant this year. She pretty much took the lead on doing everything, coordinating the meetings with the administrators, evaluating the budget. Hopefully I was a good assistant to her this year. So I'm proud of the work we got to do together in this budget process, and just want to recognize her as a strong,
Critical player,
critical player for us.
absolutely.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Margaret. Does anybody have any questions?
Just a comment, as I realize that this concludes my 15th budget adoption presentation given by Bob Salerno. And this probably represents, what, your 20th budget adoption presentation? 18th. We would be remiss, or I would be remiss, in not acknowledging Bob for all of his contributions during those 18 years. If not for his careful planning, ethical leadership, sound financial management, and thoughtful approaches to preserving all that we value in this district, we would not be where we are today. And so simply, Bob, thank you for all that you have
Thank you.
done. This community is indebted to you for quite a bit, and we will miss you.
Yeah, and for years to come. You're
I guess
absolutely
we
right.
will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Here,
Any-
here.
Yes, but, yes, thank you on behalf of all of the board to Bob, Margaret, and Lou. But this is not the last time that you'll hear about this budget, because the state mandated budget hearing will take place at our next Board of Ed meeting on May 5th. And we will also, again, just to reiterate what Kelly said, present the budget at all of the schools' PTA meetings, which are the upcoming meetings.
And all of that is available on the website.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments before we
No, thank you, that was a good job,
close the
everybody.
budget
Appreciate it.
presentation? And we will vote to adopt the budget during the finance report. All right, with that,
We're
we
back to your
will
personnel, right?
move on to the personnel agenda. I will take that on consent unless anyone objects. Seeing none. Item 1, certificated personnel, A, regular appointments, SED clearance received. Item 2, I'm sorry, we removed item 1, we voted on that earlier, just as a reminder. B, temporary appointment, SED clearance received. C, temporary appointment, SED clearance submitted. D, extra compensation appointment, SED clearance received. E, summer school appointments, SED clearance received. F, extra compensation appointment, SED clearance received. Roman numeral 2, non-certificated personnel. A, resignation. B, regular appointment, SED clearance received. C, part-time appointment, SED clearance received. D, temporary appointment, SED clearance received. E, summer school appointments, SED clearance received. F, extra compensation appointment, SED clearance received. G, change of status. Roman numeral 3, other. A, contracted services provider. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel agenda?
Motion.
Second? Questions or comments?
Might be helpful for people who are listening at home. SED clearance received means that the background checks of anybody that comes before this board have been cleared. And also, when you see all these names, this primarily is our traditional summer school as well as our 12-month program. This doesn't even begin to touch the other parts of the summer program that we have talked about. So, a lot of hard work going on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Moving on to the administrative report. I'll take that on consent unless anyone objects. Seeing none, item 1, acceptance of gift from the Black Cloud Giving Fund on behalf of New York Life and its donors. Item 2, acceptance of gift from the Harrison Educational Foundation. Item 3, approval of settlement agreement. Item 4, approval of CSE CPSE minutes. Item 5, approval of CSE CPSE recommendations. Item 6, approval of CSE CPSE annual review. Do I have a motion to approve the administrative report?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? I would just, again, on behalf of the board, the entire Board of Education and the district, want to thank the Harrison Educational Foundation for their generous donation, as well as the Black Cloud Giving Fund for their generous donation to Harrison Avenue School. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Moving on to the finance report, I'll take that on consent unless anyone objects. Seeing none, item 1, 2020-21 appropriation transfers. Item 2, treasurer's report, March 2021. Item 3, adoption of the 2021-2022 school budget. Item 4, approval of the 2021-22 property tax report card. Item 5, approval of contracts to provide pass-through funds for special education services. Item 6, contract award RFB number 20-21-24, asset recovery. Item 7, tax certiorari South Halsted LLC tax map number 0101-19. Item 8, amendment to the flex spending account plan document. Item 9, sale of vehicle. Item 10, disposal of equipment. Item 11, tax certiorari 2900 Westchester Company LLC tax map number 602-1. Item 12, tax certiorari Morningside at Purchase Homeowners Association, Inc., tax map number 672-15. Item 13, tax certiorari MS Harrison LLC tax map number 625-1. Item 14, contract for special education services, Andrus Children's Center. Item 15, disposal of equipment. Do I have a motion to approve the finance report?
Motion.
Second? Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Harrison Central School District Board of Education will be on May 5th, 2021, here at the Lewis M. Klein Middle School. We expect public session to begin at 8, and that will also be the budget hearing. With that, do I have a motion to recess into executive session? We have one administrative matter to discuss.
Motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Do I have a motion to reopen the April 21st, 2021 business meeting of the Harrison Central School District Board of Education?
Motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Michelle, would you do a roll call, please? Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Thank you very much. That concludes the April 21st, 2021 meeting. Our next regular business meeting will be May 5th, 2021. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Thank you very much. Good night.